injuries in his career, starting with an injury you suffered your senior year of college,
right,
and then really struggled with shoulders throughout your entire career. So when I read Kevin Love's own description, we'll get to whether we thought it was dirty or not.
Right.
Let's start with the injury, because the sum total of this is whether it was dirty or not.
Right. He's
whether
out.
Whether Olynyk winds up getting suspended for the first 5 games of next season or not. Let's forget about that. What matters here is when and if Kevin Love is going to be available to come back and play in this postseason. So here's his description of the injury. He said once it got back into place, it got reset in the locker room, it was a huge relief. They threw ice on it, electrical stimulation. You guys can see it's in a sling. We'll go from there. So he talked about how much pain he was in. They got it back into place.
Right.
He said at that point it was a huge relief. You've lived through this. What are we talking about?
Well, I mean, we already heard the reports of maybe a couple of weeks, and a lot of it depends on the damage that was done when it came out of joint, of the ligaments around the shoulder. When I had mine first reconstructed, after the dislocation, and then I didn't have it operated on right away, it kept popping out. They call it subluxing. It would pop in and out, but it popped in and out a lot easier, and then I had a lot of work done around it, from some of my clavicle being cut off to the ligaments around it being repaired. This obviously isn't that far, since it's the first time popping out. So the big thing, and what he said is exactly right. It's an ugly feeling when it's out of joint, and you obviously know it, and you saw it. I saw the divot kind of in his shoulder. I saw his arm out, and I thought, oh, God, that thing's out. And he obviously knew it and ran off the court. So you put it back in, and quite honestly, when you put it back in, you almost feel like, okay, it feels fine, until you start to try and lift it, and try and do things over your head and such. And then you realize,
what does it feel
well,
like?
you realize the trauma that's on the inside of it, it's going to start to swell. And that's why they ice it right away. Because that's a big thing. What damage is done around the joint? How much were ligaments and stretched out? Hopefully none tore, but what was stretched out, because that's all got to get strengthened and tightened back up again. Now, it wasn't a shooting arm. Listen, I didn't play basketball. I do know your shooting arm and your off arm. Now, where you need your off arm to come up and help, that's the problem when you dislocate it, is raising your arm up. Because when I heard it in college and did it, I had to kind of, when they wanted to keep me off the field at halftime of the Purdue game, and they said, you have to show us you can raise your arm over your head. I literally, when the doctor turned away, I grabbed my wrist and I pulled my arm up and put it on the wall. I set it against the wall and pulled my other hand down, and it said, Doc, look, my hand's up over my head. And it was against the wall. He just kind of shook his head and said, yeah, go ahead. All right, go back in the game, you idiot. And I was an idiot for doing it, quite honestly. But that's,
glad they were taking care of you as a college athlete, by the way. But go ahead.
That's the issue, is the rotation, the rotation of that arm, especially going up high, and you don't want it to be moving in there. That's one of the keys, because it popped out once. If you let it go and get back there too early, it can pop out again. And then, as I said, you have subluxing, where it can happen a lot easier unless it heals up and tightens back up around it. So everything he said, I completely understand. You get the ice on it, you stop the swelling. That's going to cause the pain. Let me tell you what, he is going to be in some pain today. And I'm sure he's going to be on some good meds, but today's going to be a tough day. You see how much it swells up. Now, obviously, you started the rehab, or really the icing, not really rehab yet, but the icing
and the stim
on it, and the stim, and they're going to get this thing going right away. Listen, he'll have the whole off season to retire. You're going to get to rehab it, but you're going to get this thing as good as you can, as quick as you can. But you do have to be careful, because if it pops out again, as I said, that's just going to make it a little easier each time for that to happen. So a couple of weeks could be, 3 or 4 games of this series. The pain threshold, I'm sure he can deal with. A lot of it is going to be the motion that you start to have with that arm. And we see a physical game of where this happened. Now, we see him a lot on the offensive side, on the outside, but he does get rebounds as well. So of any kind of torque on this arm, that's what he's going to have to deal with, is the motion, especially of coming up with the arm.
That's what I was thinking of, 2 things. The shooting is obviously the first thing you think of.
Yeah.
But then when you're battling inside, even on a normal play, you're boxing out with your arms behind
boxing out with your arms
and pushing backward.
And where are your arms going to rebound? They're going up. They're going up.
And you've got to hold people off or pushing in against you.
They are.
It's a terrible
Someone
injury.
can grab an arm and pull it. It's exactly right. It's not
a
great.
Terrible injury. Yeah. Now, as far then, of course, you work your way over to whether or not it is a dirty play. So, First off, Kelly Olynyk, the player involved in it, said, quote, "That's ridiculous." This is from the Boston Herald. "I would never intentionally hurt Kevin or anyone else. He locked my arm up. I locked up his. As we were fighting for a loose ball, you lock up arms all the time in this league." He added, "I wish him a very speedy recovery and I hope he can go back to help his team in the playoffs." He said he had unsuccessfully attempted to contact Kevin Love through mutual contacts last night. So he's saying it wasn't a dirty play at all. You heard in the open, Kevin Love absolutely says he thinks it was.
Well, I thought it was a Bush League play. I mean, I was out there. Olynyk was in a compromising position, had no chance to get the ball, and it's just too bad that he would go to those lengths to take somebody out of the game and do that to someone. So I have no doubt in my mind that he did that on purpose.
Your thoughts? I want to show you this picture. You want to give a thought first?
Oh, yeah. I'll give a thought.
Go ahead.
Do I think he intentionally tried to hurt his shoulder? I don't know if I'm going to go that far. What I do know is he had his arm locked. His arm locked with his right arm, and you saw the ball was loose, and Kevin Love was reaching for it with his right arm. And I think maybe Olynyk didn't think he had enough of a grasp with his right arm, so that's when his left arm came up and grabbed the wrist of Kevin Love. And then the torque of that and coming and going back down put the torque on the elbow as Love was reaching away for the loose ball. So, do I think it was a dirty play to hurt him? I don't really think I do. Do I think it went beyond a basketball play? Yes, I do. I think he didn't feel he had enough of a grip with his right arm, because arms lock all the time. We know that. The issue here is that left arm came up and grabbed the wrist of Love, and I wonder if that was more to, again, help keep him away from the loose ball that was bouncing right by him.
That's what I wanted to point out. So for those of you who are on Twitter, I want you to go to my Twitter page at ESPN Greeny. Sethy will put it up on TV for us. This picture is from the Boston Herald. When I saw this picture, it changed my perspective. So I watched the highlight yesterday like you did a million times. But when you see something on TV, you don't always see everything. Right. So when I was going through the notes this morning, I saw this picture. Again, it's for those of you who are not watching on TV, you can find it on my Twitter page. It's from the Boston Herald. And for those of you who are watching on television, you see it. It's the other hand. It's the left hand of Olynyk that, look, I'm not an expert in MMA. But that's what Ronda Rousey does, right? If that was 14 seconds into a fight, Kevin Love would be tapping out, wouldn't he? He's got his arm, and he just has to go like that, and it's going to just snap. So I agree with you. Do I think that Kelly Olynyk said, you know what? I think I'm going to dislocate his shoulder here. No, obviously not. But I think that is a dirty play. I mean, if you just look at him grabbing his arm and pulling it like that, it is at minimum a reckless play. And it is easy to see how he got seriously hurt.
Yeah.
When I had not noticed that left hand until I saw this picture.
Oh, really? Oh, see, I saw that. I saw that left hand.
I just saw them kind of yanking like that. Yeah. He was kind of holding on. I wasn't exactly sure what happened. That grip of that left hand there, I think, changes my...
I saw that in the replay, and my thought initially was, if you look where the ball was bouncing, Love was going to reach for the loose ball. Olynyk did get called for a loose ball foul there, obviously. When you pop a guy's shoulder out, I guess you should get called for a foul. But I really, there's part of me that wonders if he didn't think the lock, the clamp down with his right arm, if he felt Love could pull out of that and get to the loose ball. So he brought up with his left hand and put it on his wrist, and then the combination of him pulling away and Love going the other way trying to get the ball popped his shoulder out of joint. So I don't think I'm going as far as calling it a dirty play. I think I would say it turned out to be, it wasn't a basketball play. He went beyond a basketball play, trying not to let Love get to that ball. Well, that's kind of my thought.
At the risk of parsing words, we've had three expressions attached to it. There's not a basketball play. There's Bush League, which is what Kevin Love said, and then there's dirty, which others have said.
I don't think I'm going to
would
dirty.
You put it in?
I'm not going to dirty.
Is it Bush League?
I'm saying it wasn't a basketball play.
Okay, so I would put Bush League halfway between dirty and not a basketball play. Are you willing to go as far as Bush League?
I could lean toward Bush League, but I'll say more the circumstances of the play with Love going away and Olynyk trying to keep him from going to the loose ball. Really all led up to the dislocation. So I'll lean toward it a little bit with you, but I'll stick more to it wasn't a basketball
I think
play.
I'm going to go to Bush League, but not to dirty. I don't believe he was I have no reason to say Kelly Olynyk decided I'm going to intentionally hurt Kevin Love. But I think I would go so far as to say Bush League, because that's a reckless-looking play when you see the way he wrenches the arm.
I actually think reckless is a really good word for it. I think reckless is a really, really good word for it.
Oh, by the way, the